Hi there, I'm Jill Webb and I've just been asked to outline to you some key principles around the topic of unconscious bias. Now I want to be really clear, this is a massive topic and it can be a training all by itself, so this really is just some pointers to get you going. So a good definition of unconscious bias would be: an unconscious bias is an unsupported judgment in favour of or against one thing, person or group in a way that is usually considered unfair. I'll just say that again. An unconscious bias is an unsupported judgment in favour of, or indeed against, one thing, person or group in a way that is usually considered unfair. So let's unpick that a little bit. Our brains use clues all the time, visual clues, verbal clues, behavioural clues, to categorise people. And we need to do that. When we all lived in caves, that's what kept us safe. Is this a friend? Is this a foe? You've probably heard of flight or fight. Same sort of principles. So our brains all the time are processing, they're thinking, what can they work out about other people? And these clues are incredibly useful to help us make our way through life. They can help us to determine whether somebody might be friendly or hostile. As we've already said, that's something that years ago actually kept us alive. This process of very rapid categorisation helps us to determine whether we are in a safe situation or not. And actually, through human evolution, these unconscious biases have been really important and really necessary. So to summarise that, from a basic human viewpoint, we have developed and evolved so that we make unconscious judgments really quickly. And these help us to make decisions that literally can be life-saving. We also can categorise people in what we call social categorisation. Really good example of this is when we go to the dentist or the doctors, we generally know how to behave. Generally, we don't need to be told that you sit in the waiting room till your name's called. Our unconscious mind has learned that over the years and processed it for us. So all the time our minds are very busy categorising and sorting. But sometimes we can hold biases which are not helpful. And it's really important to be honest about these. We all have unconscious bias. I remember many years ago working with a team on this, and somebody argued me to the end of the session that she did not hold any unconscious bias. Interestingly, the next day she came into work. She'd had a near miss with a BMW as she drove to work, and the first words out of her mouth were, "I hate BMW drivers." When we unpicked that, she'd had 3 accidents in her time on the road over many years, and they'd all been involving a BMW. A really small example, but an example of how we hold unconscious biases all the time. Another couple of real-life examples of that. Somebody I know goes to a church in a group of 3 churches within a parish. It's quite common these days for churches to be grouped. The perception at the church that this individual attends is that all the posh people go to the church up the road, so it's all right for that church because it's got all the money. Another example. And finally, something we're probably all aware of, the north-south divide. How often do we make assumptions, or even, might do it laughingly, make jokes, but about how people are different in different parts of the country? Some professional examples that might be of interest for you. Perhaps at work, somebody's employing somebody to do a project that's very tech-heavy. Statistics show us you are more likely to employ somebody young because your unconscious bias may well be that young people do tech better. When the first YouTube app was launched, about 10% of the population couldn't see the videos the right way round. And that's because the people that launched it hadn't thought about people that were left-handed that had to hold their phones in a different way. And finally, a true story, Yale University in America asked some managers to select for some posts. The selection process happened twice. The first time they were given the application forms with the names, dates of birth, etc. on it. The second time, they were given only the application forms, no personal information. In the scenario where the application forms had the names on, statistically, if you were a male, you were more likely to be shortlisted. Now, those are all examples of times when nobody has gone out of their way to say, oh, I want to discriminate, or I want to choose a male candidate over a female, or whatever. And that's why unconscious biases are so important for us to be aware of. And what I challenge you to do is spend a little bit of time reflecting, what are you biased about? As long as we are aware of our biases, we can work with them. I hope that's challenged you to go away and do a bit of thinking, and thank you.